Okay, can you guys see the chart again?
No.
Yes.
Okay.
Now, yes.
Okay, so just going back, 1 is impacted, so a red circle around the 2. Number 2, DO amalgam, and it is a class 2 because it involves the distal. Number 3, MOD amalgam, also a class 2 because it involves either the mesial or distal on the posterior. Number 4 says porcelain crown. So if you remember a porcelain crown, okay, it's supposed to be a circle. It is not that easy drawing on here, so that's an outline. So these teeth have to be outlined. Now, because it's porcelain, it does not get colored in, okay? They just get outlined. So that is a porcelain crown.
That's like a cap.
Yes, a crown is a cap. 5 through 7 is a 3-unit gold bridge. So 5, again, you have to outline the teeth. And again, you should be checking your work and making sure that you did these correct. 6. And of course, you will outline it more nicely and not so sloppy like I'm doing right now. All right, 5 through 7 is a gold bridge, but we have to attach this bridge, okay? So we would make some type of bar to make this known that 5, 6, and 7 is a bridge. Now, it's gold. So to signify gold, the teeth get what's called these crosshatch lines everywhere. So on the lingual, there'll be some crosshatch lines. On the buccal, there'll be some crosshatch lines. On the occlusal, there'll be some crosshatch lines. And again, those lines represent metal, some type of gold. So this is a 3-unit bridge. It is connected. If you don't leave it if you don't make it connected, then it will be 3 single crowns. And usually a bridge it doesn't say, but usually a bridge replaces a missing tooth. So I'm going to say that number 6 is missing. Okay. And usually that's why they make a bridge. Now, we don't normally also make bridges made out of gold for the front teeth. Those are usually meant for the posterior tooth, but there are on occasion some patients that ask for gold teeth in the front, as you may know. Now, 8 and 9 says that they both had a root canal with porcelain crown. So 8 and 9 is going to get the same type of picture. So a line in the root. Okay. A line in the root represents a root canal. And again, if you just outline the tooth, it represents a crown. Now, notice how there's nothing inside this crown because again, it is porcelain. If I put the crosshatch lines, then it will represent metal. So now 4, 8, and 9 are all porcelain crowns. Okay, and again, 5 through 7 is a 3-unit gold bridge. All right, going to 10. 10 has a class 5 facial composite. So right here, class 5 means that it's at the gum line. Okay, and 11 has class 5 facial decay. So now decay is going to be the same as number 10, but the difference is It's in red. Okay. It's still considered a class 5 because again, it's at the
Yo se
gum
dejé
line.
aquí allí
Somebody
para
has a question?
cambiar ese camino.
Okay, somebody has to mute their mic. All right. So 10 and 11 is the same thing, class 5, except that the difference is 10 has a composite filling and 11 is decayed. Okay, that's the difference. Notice the difference between the colors. It says 13 has an abscess, so 13, you will draw a circle at the tip of the tooth. You can either color it in or leave it as the circle.
Did you skip 12?
Was there some? Yes, I'm sorry. 12 has an MO decay. Because it's a posterior, most of the time, they put silver fillings in the back. If it was going to be a composite, then you would just outline it. On your charting exercise, it does not say whether it's going to get an amalgam or composite. So if you outlined it in red, I'm okay with it. If you colored it in red, I'm still okay with it. As long as you put it on the mesial, occlusal. Mesial is closest to the midline. Anybody can tell me what class this is?
The buckle.
No, the classification.
2, misio occluso.
Right, 2, because it involves the mesial on the posterior teeth. Again, if you remember, I told you the posterior teeth are 1 through 5, 12 to 16, 17, I'll raise it up here a little bit, 17 to 21, and 28 to 32. Everything inside of those posterior teeth from 6 through 11, 22 to 27 are anterior teeth. So anytime you have a mesial or distal on the posterior, it's a class 2. If it was on the anterior, it would be a class what? If I had a mesial or distal cavity or filling on the anterior, what classification would it be?
And the anterior is class 5.
No,
No?
no, not for mesial and distal.
Oh. Misio.
Class 5 is at the gum line and it could be,
Yeah, the gum line.
yeah, class 5 is at the gum line and it can be anywhere anterior or posterior. But class 3 would be on the anterior if it was the same surface, mesial or distal. So again, from 6 through 11, 22 to 27, if I had any mesial or distal cavities or fillings, they would be considered class 3. On the posterior, class 2. We're going to have more practice on this. Okay. All right, moving on to tooth number 14. So 14 is telling you that it has a class 1 lingual pit amalgam with sealant placed on occlusal surface. Well, first of all, you can't have two things, to be honest with you. Because a lingual pit amalgam will be a little circle, okay? And it says with sealant place. You can't put a sealant and amalgam together. They should know better than that. But anyway, it would be an S if it's a sealant and a pit right in the middle of the tooth would be a class 1 if it's amalgam. Again, class sealants and amalgam do not mix together. So I don't know why they wrote that. All right, but let's go to 15, sealant on occlusal surface. It's either one or the other. It cannot be both. Okay, so S in blue stands for that it has a sealant. If it was in red, it needs a sealant. Okay, 16 and 17 is impacted. So 16 and 17 should look like number 1. Any questions so far before I continue? Okay, number 18 to 21 has a 4-unit gold bridge with number 18 having a root canal. So if 8, whoops, let's erase that because it has it already. It shouldn't be in red. It should be in blue. Okay, so it says that 18 has a root canal. Okay, so lines in the root. And it's a 4-unit gold bridge. So that means 18, 19, 20, and 21 are a bridge. So again, each and every single one of them get outlined.
Circle. Okay.
Now, what are we going to put inside of these outlines to represent gold?
Lines.
Line.
Those lines are called crosshatch lines. Okay, crosshatch lines. All right, so what else do we need to make this known that this is a bridge? Because if I leave it right now the way it is, I told you it would be what?
Don't you need to connect them?
Right, I need to connect them because if I don't connect them, then they're going to look like what?
Single crown.
Good, single crowns. So these are your crosshatch lines, okay? So you're going to put your crosshatch lines on every single circle. Why? Because the charting exercise said it was all gold, okay? All gold. So you have to have crosshatch lines in every single circle to represent metal. And in this case, it is gold. This person likes a lot of gold in their mouth, as you can see. Okay. Now, normally, as I mentioned to you before, usually a tooth is missing in order to put a bridge on. We don't usually put bridges on teeth that have that are not missing. So this one doesn't indicate which one is missing. Okay, this one does not want to do the crosshatch lines on the bottom. There we go. Okay, so if a tooth was if you're gonna put a bridge, usually number 18 and 21 will be what we call the abutments, the one that's holding the bridge, and possibly even 19 and 20 can be missing. In this case, we could have 2 missing teeth, and in order to replace both missing teeth, that's why it's a 4-unit instead of a 3, like the one up here. On the top, we had a 3-unit bridge. Now this one is a 4-unit bridge. Okay, and it's all gold, as the exercise said. Okay, moving on. 24 has a mesial composite. So here's 24. This, if you remember, this is called the midline. Any surface closest to the midline is the mesial, so you should have a little outline right here on the mesial. Okay, that is the mesial closest to the midline. And then on 25, it says distal. And now we're crossing the midline. So the surface furthest away from the midline is known as the distal. Okay. Now, who can tell me what classification is both of these?
It's class 3.
Yes, class 3. I mentioned earlier that if you have mesial and distal on the anteriors is a class 3, but if you have mesial or distal on the posterior is a class 2.
Right.
So this is a mesial on 24, a distal on 25. Good job. All right, 26 has a fractured mesial incisal edge. So anything that's fractured should be in red. And mesial is closest to the midline. I is the edge. And then this is going to be a little tough, but. So it should be jagged, sharp. They represent fractures. So the MI broke off, okay? So they have this piece missing, MI. Again, closest to the mesial. Now, because it involves the eye, what classification is that?
3.
No, it involves the eye.
Involve the eye. So close.
It's a class 4. Anything that involves the eye is a class 4. Okay, 27 has an MO composite. So M, that's a mistake because 27 is a what tooth?
Canine.
A canine. Is it a posterior or an anterior tooth?
It's anterior.
Right, it's anterior. Anterior teeth don't have occlusals. So that was a mistake on the charting exercise. So we're just going to say 27 has an M composite, okay? So we're just going to say 27 has an M, or we could say MI because in the front is an I, not an O, okay? So here's the M closest to the midline, the edge, that's the I, okay? So MI for 27. Composite filling is outlined. Amalgam filling is colored in. 28 is missing. So we wouldn't cross out the whole entire tooth, only if it's the wisdom teeth, which is 1, 16, 17, and 32. We would only cross out the root. Why? Because if we're going to replace this, we need to be able to identify the symbol. So we just cross out the root, and that tells us that the entire tooth is missing. 29 has an MOD amalgam with recurrent decay. So it has an amalgam filling on 29 and it needs to be colored in. Okay, so M starts right here, closest to the midline, then O, and it travels to the distal. Now it's saying that that filling has recurrent decay. So when that's the case, you have to outline that filling. And basically what that means is that that person got decay all over again on that same area right there. So it should look like that. Who can tell me what classification is this?
2.
Yep, 2. Okay, because it's on the posterior. Okay, number 30, occlusal amalgam with recurrent decay. So once again, occlusal is in the middle. Okay, and again, it says recurrent decay. So the same thing that happened with 29 now just happened to 30. This person is not taking care of their fillings. They're getting decay all over the fillings. So you would outline that area that got decayed. Now, what classification is 30?
1.
Yes, 1 because it's on the occlusal. And 31, which that's kind of weird, usually 32, but we'll go with the charting. 31 is impacted. Usually, yeah, usually it's the wisdom teeth that are impacted, but on occasion, I mean, there are some teeth, even some anterior teeth that can be impacted because if the space closes up, there's no room for the tooth to grow in and it turns out to be impacted. So 31 is impacted. Does anybody have any questions?
Yes, the impact is when the teeth twist and the
Yes. Well,
tail one is twist.
yeah, it's either laying down or it's rotated. Yes. So it all depends on the impaction. This one didn't say it was rotated to the mesial distal. It just says it was impacted. So that means that there was no room for 31 to come out. So it's somewhere in the gum line or pushing up against 30 or 32. So we
Oh,
wouldn't know until we had x-rays to find out what type of impaction that tooth, how it was laying down in the mouth. We usually can only tell by x-rays. Anybody else with any questions? Okay, so this is what I'm going to tell you. I will post this video. Hold on a second. I will post that video